Have you looked? Because there's a whole lot going on. Yesterday, the plane that appears to have been shot down, and Rush is telling us, no, it was bird strike. Bird strike knocked plane out of sky. And then you look at the pictures that are coming from the ground. Now, I have no way of verifying them, but they just seem to match the exact markings of the plane and the tail number. But there appears to be shrapnel holes in the fuselage, or some sort of bullet hole in the fuselage that would give you the indication this plane may have been struck by some fire from the ground. So we'll keep an eye on that. Reportedly, the black box has been recovered. The flight data information will all be broken down, and we'll see what happened. The remarkable, scary flight. I can't even believe that 29 people survived. Yes, 38, maybe a few more, perished in the Azerbaijani airline plane that crashed in Kazakhstan. And my goodness, there's a lot of video. It's got to have been a harrowing, terrifying experience for everyone on board, and a true miracle for the people who survived and walked away. Or I doubt many walked away. I'm sure they were carried away. Well, here we are, 25 days away from the swearing in of Donald John Trump. And I, for one, am very excited about it. I have plans to be in Washington, D.C. to cover it, and plans to toast the return of Donald Trump to the presidency and the return of Republican control to not just the White House, but the Senate. And hopefully we can keep control of the House, although things are getting crazier and crazier every day. When we left here on Tuesday for Christmas Eve, we were talking about the story of Kay Granger out of Texas, the Republican congresswoman who had not placed a vote in 6 stinking months. She had not voted in the House in 6 months. And then the Dallas Express newspaper did some research and found out she was living in a memory care facility in her district, which is just sad. It's a terrible thing. Anybody who knows this experience with a parent or a friend or a loved one, you know how bad it is. When somebody's losing their mental capabilities, well, you don't even have to have a friend or a relative. All you have had to do is watch Joe Biden over the past 6 to 8 years. It's really sad. It truly is sad. But here we have a member of Congress, a Republican member of Congress, who has been hiding. And in our Christmas discussions, and I would love to hear from all of you about your Christmas dinner discussions, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, whatever discussions you had with family members, especially if you had to deal with the question of politics, because it only came up a couple times. And, it's Christmas. I didn't want to mess up Christmas for the two liberals that happen to be in our group. So I talked about what really should be done in terms of term limits and age limits, and I think it's cognitive limits. But you're welcome to join me at any time in the conversation. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Kay Granger has, of course, announced she's retiring from Congress. Can you post-date that back to the last time you actually showed up for work? It really is an amazing story. And I'm not worried the district is going to get flipped, but I just think there has to be some sort of accountability for the people who covered it up. And at the same time has to be accountability for the people who covered up Joe Biden and his mental decline that was shielded. And they're going to point to the fact that, Joe Biden on Christmas Eve, he signed 50 bills into law, including making the bald eagle the official bird of the United States. I know the eagle has been on our symbol since 1782. So we've had the eagle there, and I, for one, assumed it was just automatically the national bird. And I thought it was in pretty good shape on this one, but I was wrong. At least that's official. This may be the one thing I can agree with Joe Biden on doing, making the American eagle the official national symbol. But he signed 50 bills. I have to wander through them to see what is in them. We also have to talk about Joe Biden and is he still in charge? There is a pretty interesting piece that was written by a writer in the Philadelphia area named Guy Shiraki, and it covers the idea that perhaps the transition from election to inauguration should be shortened. And that's also one of my questions for you today. What should be the length of time between the election and the certification of the election and the transition, the actual swearing in of the president? Because we have a pretty long time here. November 5th was a long time ago. Yes, we do have to have the certification of every state, and I maintain if we get rid of all the mail-in balloting crap, you could have all the votes counted within about 24 hours. I'm just saying. We looked at Florida, and several other Republican states managed to get it done. I think California is probably still counting somewhere. But if we get the votes counted and tabulated all in one day, why should it take until January 20th for the peaceful transition of power? It's not like you're going to have a problem getting movers. You're the president of the United States, in and out. If those people need to move, we could be able to clear those people out. And that's just good business. That's capitalism there. You'll be hiring movers, and you'll be doing the same for people of Congress in the House and the Senate who have to change. But what else is entailed in making that transition of power shorter? Because it just feels like it's too long. And if you disagree with me, tell me. And the reason I guess it feels like it's too long is because it seems as if this administration, the current administration, is attempting to put legal landmines everywhere, financial landmines everywhere, that are going to make it very difficult for Donald Trump to come in as he wants to come in and hit the ground running. Trump has virtually everyone selected for his campaign. Now, they have to go through the confirmation process, yes, for his cabinet. Trump has everyone selected for his cabinet. You can see it's posted. Politico's got the whole scoreboard up there. And we have to get through that confirmation process. But it just seems like all of this time between election and the peaceful transition of power is helping the people who lost. And is that the right thing to do? And now maybe if the parties are shifted and in 4 years from now, right now, the Republicans are going to have to leave. It's hard for me to say that. I feel like Fonzie trying to say I'm wrong. If the Republicans have to leave, you might say, well, Mike, we need as much time to make sure we make all of our policies bulletproof. Well, the people get what they voted for. And if the Biden administration is preventing the people's will from being applied, then I have a problem with that. I also think that we need to talk about people like Jamie Raskin, Democrat Congressman Jamie Raskin, who is already trying to gin up an effort to prevent Donald Trump from being sworn in and to prevent Donald Trump from being certified as the president of the United States. He was talking about this weeks ago. Jamie Raskin talking about this weeks and weeks and weeks ago.
What can be put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so, They want to kick it to Congress, so it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025, to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody. And
so Jamie Raskin wants to disqualify Donald Trump from serving. And then he's worried that there will be some sort of takeover, some attack on the Capitol by angry mobs of, 80+ million or 77+ million Trump supporters who will come out to say, hey, wait a minute, we voted for this guy. And he wants security for everyone. I think these are the people who actually want the Civil War.
Civil War conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but these justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means. And I'm glad that Sherilyn's creating her new center so we can bring that.
So Raskin, who sounds like he's got a little bit of power envy with the Supreme Court. They don't have much work to do. Can you point to the work you guys have actually done, Congressman? His thinking from weeks ago is bolstered by a piece in The Hill today. A piece headlined, Congress has the power to block Trump from taking office, but lawmakers must act now. I maintain that they're going to be getting a little more nervous as January 20th gets closer and closer. The people in the Trump derangement ward of the Washington, D.C. outpatient clinics are going to be getting a little bit more and more nervous and flailing about, and we need to be ready on day one to deal with them. We need to be ready to say, hold on a second, kids. This is how the Republic is supposed to work. It does work. But, if we made things in terms of transitions happen quicker, well, the Band-Aid would just have been ripped off by now. And Donald Trump, who's already recognized by the rest of the world as the leader of the free world, he'd already be in office and doing things. What's wrong with getting to the transition of power by New Year's Eve? Wouldn't that be a great New Year's Eve? I'm just wondering. What do you think about it? Is it a smart idea for us to expedite the transition of power, the change in administrations from the election day to moving inauguration day to a little bit quicker, and how soon? Or if you disagree, maybe I'm wrong on this one. 888-630-9625 is the number. 888-630-9625. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plante on The Chris Plante Show.
You're listening to The Chris Plante Show.
It is the Chris Plante Show, Boxing Day. Mike Opelka, that's me. I'm in for Chris Plante. And I'm thrilled to be here on Boxing Day. I'm not a Brit, but I have British friends, and they're all excited about Boxing Day. And so I said, what's the big deal? What's Boxing Day? And it is, it's the day when the Brits exercise regifting, I believe. It was the day that all of the hired help would get their box of presents from the people they served. And now it's extended to charity, which is a good thing. But I believe that the British holiday of Boxing Day, that was the day they probably took all the gifts they got on Christmas. Oh, that's a horrible sweater. Put it in the box for the help. We'll give that to the help. So the Boxing Day, which is today, celebrated by the Brits, I maintain is the origin of regifting. I could be wrong in that. If there is a British person who's listening, you're welcome to straighten me out. But if we boil it down, you really know what was going on. The lords of the manor were delivering the stuff that they didn't want to the hired help who had to work on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Anyway, question that I started out the show with this morning, is it too long of a transition? What is the right time to get people to work? Sylvie is joining us. Merry Christmas, Sylvie. Welcome to the Chris Plante Show, and I'm happy you're here.
Mike. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Yes, Mike, too long from November 5th through January 20th. Too long of a time, too much time to sabotage different parts of the government. And when Keir Starmer won the prime minister over the summer in the UK, Rishi Sunak was out in the street 2 days later. They moved him right to 10 Downing Street, I think the next day. It was something, he's turned out to be a disaster for Great Britain and the United Kingdom, but it just takes too long. And the Trump administration, the incoming administration, just needs to go department by department. Hopefully the Doge will be doing this to make sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted with regards to anything that would be able to sabotage the president starting on January 20th. I'm so excited for this new administration, Mike. You can't believe it. I'm just over the moon.
I am too, but what's the right time? How much time is necessary? I like the
2
reference
weeks.
to the Brits. 2 weeks, you think 2 weeks? Because it's kind of like
2 weeks.
Well, when Donald Trump would fire somebody, he'd say, "You're fired, get out," which would be that day. But let's give everybody their 2 weeks notice. That's a good
there needs to be 2 weeks notice, exactly, and it gives them enough time for transition. I think that there needs to be time to transition. If the United Kingdom can do it in a day, we can do it in 2 weeks.
Easily. I'm with you, Sylvie. Thanks for being there. We'll get this topic continuing just around the corner. So much to discuss today, but I think this is important. While we're setting term limits, we might as well start changing the transition. It's peaceful and quicker. It's Opelka in for Plante on the Chris Plante Show.
You're listening to The Chris Plante Show.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Boxing Day. If you are celebrating Boxing Day, it is the Chris Plante Show. My name is Mike Opelka, or my friend Chris Plante. And we have a ton of things that we have to get to today, and I will try and get to all of them as there are questions about Elon's health, his weight loss, all kinds of interesting topics because we love to gossip, don't we? And we'll talk about Christmas holidays and if there were any kerfuffles around the Christmas dinner table. There are issues going on around the world. The Azerbaijani airliner that crashed yesterday appears it may have been taken down by something bigger than a goose, as the Russians are intimating, as well as the attack on Ukraine's power grid over the weekend, or over the weekend. It was Christmas. Over Christmas, which Joe Biden has declared it a horrible thing. Well, I give you a giant duh, Mr. President. But shouldn't there be some kind of an address? There can't be, because he's incapable. We know that. And why do we know that? Well, the Wall Street Journal report told us, but also the Free Bacon, the Washington Free Bacon, that we love them. They just declared the 2024 Man of the Year to be Dr. Jill Biden, who may be running the country for all we know, or maybe the face of the administration for the next 25 days. We'll find out. We'll get into it. But the big question I was asking that relates directly to this is, why can't the transition of power be quicker? Why can we not get the president who was elected? The people have spoken. And shouldn't we give the people what they want? Shouldn't we allow that machine to be in place in a reasonable amount of time? And what is a reasonable amount of time? Mike is in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Mike, welcome to the Chris Plante Show. Where are you on this? You want it to be shorter, longer, or is it just right?
It definitely needs to be shorter. My idea, okay, it's going to take a little bit of time, but first amend the Constitution. I believe it would require that.
I think so.
To change it, but also put some sort of a requirement in there. Anything to do with money or serious, and you'd have to define it. National interest, going to war, for example, has to be transferred almost immediately, say within a week. Other than that, let's have the formalities on January the 1st. Everybody's partying anyway. It's time to get off your butts and go to work. So I think that would be a good time to do it.
I would love to see that happen. I know that the city of New York swears in its new mayors, at the New Year's Eve celebration during election years. And that seems to make sense. You start a new year with a new administration. And it also, Mike, would have some pretty good benefits because it would tamp down some of the ridiculous New Year's Eve parties in Washington, D.C.
God knows we could use that.
Yeah,
hey,
they'd all have to show up for work sober on January 1st, and that might screw up the New Year's Eve plans for a lot of members of Congress.
It might actually make it work, boys and girls. That would be a great idea, and happy holidays to everybody, and God bless America, and I hope we get out of this mess we're in, and the quicker the better. I liked your analogy. Pull that Band-Aid off quick.
Yeah, let's rip that Band-Aid off and let the healing begin, which I think is what I think people on both sides want it. But thank you, Mike. Great thoughts. January 1st would be an excellent choice. We will see. In the meantime, Joe Biden is traveling to St. Croix, and he'll return on New Year's Eve. And then he goes to Rome to meet with the Pope and Italian leaders for 4 days. So why are we allowing this vacation mad president to continue on our dime to fly around the world? I'm sure he's staying in the home of a wealthy donor in St. Croix, just the way he did over Thanksgiving. That is the Biden tradition, to stay on Nantucket Island in the home of a wealthy individual. It is maddening. But unless we change it, and maybe Donald Trump is the guy who can come in and say, the transition of power is too long. The transition from administration to administration is just too long. It needs to be more reasonable. And it would require, I'm sure, Congress to act. Will they act? I don't know if they're capable of acting that quickly. But I do believe it would be very important for us to do that. The other stories that I want to get to today, of course, as I said, we are absolutely watching the investigation into the airliner that crashed yesterday. And so many people watched the crash because the videos are everywhere. And you see the plane taking this bizarre route to the runway after it requested emergency landing. And then it dived and then straightened out. I thought the pilot was going to have some sort of Sully-like moment where he saves everybody. 38 people, maybe more, we're not quite sure of the count yet, perished in that crash. But 29 lived, including 2 kids. It is a remarkable story. But the Russians are quick to tell us, oh, no, it was birds. It was birds. Trust me. Yeah, I don't trust you as far as I can throw you. So we'll find out as soon as there are official releases on this. They have a lot of secondary news teams who are in charge over the holidays. That's kind of the way things go. There are other stories that I want to cover as well. They relate to Kamala Harris and her defeat and the autopsies that the left are doing on why they lost and how that you lost because you lost the American people. You lost the working man. We already talked about this. If you were here on Tuesday, you heard the comments from the head of the Teamsters Union who talked about Kamala Harris and her arrogance towards the rank and file members of the Teamster Union, basically telling them you better get in line. Well, now we're starting to see some really interesting videos pop up from powerful insiders in the Democrat Party who have walked away from the Democrat Party because they realized the Democrat Party had gone so far left and was so arrogant. As we said, one of these may end up at Donald Trump's inauguration. One of these really powerful Kamala Harris fundraiser supporters is a woman named Lindy Lee. Lindy Lee was one of these people who could go in and shake people and get money to fall out of their pockets, giant chunks of money, and she was handing them over to the Democrats. And she had an appearance on Fox Business recently talking about what the Democrats did in terms of basically lighting money on fire by the millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. In fact, she's claiming the total amount of money was closer to $2.5 billion. We got to go through this because there's a remarkable revelation here.
Ashley, Merry Christmas. It's wonderful to be with you.
Merry Christmas.
This has been a long time coming. My initial disillusionment became clear when I realized that essentially set $2.5 billion on fire.
$2.5 billion was spent. Now, Donald Trump raised and spent, I think it was closer to $500 million. But this big Democrat fundraiser is saying that the Harris campaign raised and spent $2.5 billion.
Raised $1.5 billion through the campaign, another billion through the super PAC Future Forward. And there's been no accountability. We still haven't gotten any answers as to why Oprah, a billionaire, got $2.5 million through her production company. Why couldn't she pay for it? She's an oligarch. She could have just paid for the production costs herself.
I love the fact that you have a Democrat, then this woman is a Democrat, Lindy Lee, calling Oprah an oligarch. Because now we're seeing AOC and basically everybody on MSNBC calling anyone who is wealthy and supports Trump an oligarch. They're going after Elon. They're going after Bezos. They'll go after Zuckerberg. They'll call them all oligarchs. But here we have a Democrat who's already labeling Oprah Winfrey an oligarch. Oh, this is going to be fun. But this is a lady who had an awakening after she saw an extreme abuse of power and money.
And not to mention the fact that they spent $450,000 putting Kamala Harris's face on the sphere. Now tell me why that would be helpful. Tell me how that would help her win. Obviously, that was utter failure. And then they spent $500,000 essentially bribing Al Sharpton moments before he interviewed her. And this is our hard-earned money. This is the money that I worked so hard to raise.
I love the fact that this lady is calling out the Dems and saying, look, they gave Oprah millions. They gave Sharpton a $500,000 bribe moments before he interviewed her. And I'm very happy she didn't refer to Sharpton as the Reverend Al Sharpton because he's not a man of God. There's more gold here, a little more gold here.
I raised millions of this, and donors are feeling burned. And let me tell you, although I might be the only one coming forward, I haven't met a single donor who disagrees with me.
Now, that is key. This is a young lady who talks to high-dollar Democrat donors, and she's now willing to tell the truth and go, this was terrible. This was a waste of $2.5 billion, and no one's disagreeing with me. It gets better.
So what's been the response, Lindy, since you made your announcement?
Vitriolic. And they say they're not a cult, but look at how they behave when one of their own dares to think for herself. The excommunication, the defamation, the public shaming, the boycott campaigns, the psychological terrorism. I no longer have comments on any of my social media.
This is a lady who came out and told the truth. And then, as she said, she was ostracized and criticized, and she had to turn off all the commenting on social media because she was then the subject of all the vitriol that they could put out. They loved her when she was bringing in the money, and then they hated her immediately when she started saying, hey, what did you guys do here? And it gets, as I said, this gets very interesting at the end. Because
it's just too much. I don't need that. It's just endless. And as soon as you step out of line, they will get you.
Yeah, that is clear. So what's next? Are you going to turn Republican, independent? What's next for you?
I wonder what she's going to say. Now, we saw Tulsi Gabbard renounce the Democrat Party for what it had become and sign up And we saw Nicole Shanahan, Robert Kennedy's running mate. We saw her on stage, I believe it was in Las Vegas, where she cast her vote for Trump and registered as a Republican. This is a lady who raised millions and millions for Democrats. What's next for her?
This all has been so fast for me, and actually someone scooped my own exit. Some random person on Twitter got 3 million views saying that Lindy Lee is going to exit. I couldn't even own my own departure. So this is all happening really quickly for me, but you might see me at the inauguration. I don't want to say too much right now, but somebody on Team Trump already reached out to me. They've been incredibly gracious, and on day one, they were kinder to me and more humane than the DNC ever was.
Wow.
Fascinating story that this big fundraiser from the Democrats, Lindy Lee, said the Trump team has already reached out. And, you know, the Trump team is smart. This is a young, vivacious, capable lady who raised millions of dollars for the Democrats, and they've thrown her overboard. And the Trump campaign realizes the value of making the GOP tent bigger. I would put my dollar on a bet that Lindy Lee will be visible during the inauguration. I'm just saying, it's a pretty good chance you're going to see this young lady, not just at the inauguration, but I'm guessing through the midterms as well as the 2028 elections, because anyone who has their eyes opened and is capable of bringing in that kind of money will be very valuable to the new revitalized GOP. All right, so many more things to get to. I saw the photo of Elon Musk dressed as Santa, and there were a lot of people making comments about Elon Musk is pretty skinny as Santa. What's going on? He made a big admission. We'll talk about that. There were some shocking revelations out of the owner of In-N-Out that had to close its first restaurant in 47 years. There's also a new and wonderful appointment to the ambassador of Panama. Donald Trump has made an appointment, and it has the left spinning in circles and freaking out. Is Donald Trump trolling, or is he actually negotiating for Canada to become the 51st state, for the Panama Canal to be back under American control, and for Greenland to be part of the United States of America? We'll get into it, and we'd love to hear from you as well. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. It's Opelka in for Plante on The Chris Plante Show.
You're listening to The Chris Plante Show.
It is the Chris Plante Show on Boxing Day, Candy Cane Day, and it's Mike Opelka. That's me sitting in for my friend Chris Plante. You're welcome to join us, 888-630-9625, a host of topics to get to. Mr. Trump hoping to establish a government agency that will shrink government, which is kind of a contradiction to many on the left. They keep pointing out that DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, is not efficient because there's two people in charge of it, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Well, since neither of them are taking a penny, and if you look at the requirements to be a part of DOGE, you have to be willing to work 80 hours a week for no money. So they're not looking to fatten the wallets of any people. So I think that's kind of admirable. And we'll see what DOGE accomplishes. The goal is at least $1 trillion, maybe $2 trillion in savings. It would be remarkable. If we get to the trillion, I'd be really happy. But I also mentioned that Elon Musk, one of the two heads of DOGE, put out a photo of himself dressed as Santa. And he was looking pretty skinny. And people are saying, what happened? Because he wasn't like a big fatso, but he always had kind of a barrel chest, and maybe it was because he flies around a lot. You never see him out running or anything. But he's admitted on a social media post that he is now using Mounjaro. But the photo is entitled Ozempic Santa. But technically, he's using Mounjaro, and he said Mounjaro doesn't have the same ring to it. Mounjaro is one of these, I think I'm saying this correctly, semi-glutides, one of the GL1 drugs that are meant to help people lose weight. And they all have effects besides the weight loss. And you should talk to your doctor if you're thinking about doing it. Now, he's only 53 years old, and he prefers Mounjaro to Ozempic because he says taking high doses of Mounjaro gave him gas and made him pass gas and burp like Barney from The Simpsons. Interesting look into the mind of Elon Musk. And he also says Mounjaro has fewer side effects for him and is more effective. So this is going to be fascinating to see if this will cause a rush of people demanding to get Mounjaro from their doctors, one of these GLP inhibitors. There are also reports that some of these GLP inhibitors are helping people not just with their cravings for food, but for alcohol and drugs. And wouldn't that be a miracle? I'm still a big fan of diet and exercise, portion control, and staying active. But for some people, that doesn't work. And if we could fix obesity, we'd also probably save $1 trillion or $2 trillion in this country in unneeded expenses. So much more to get to. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plante on The Chris Plante Show.